Hello, everyone. Welcome into Above My Pay Grade. My name is Eric. If you've watched this channel for any length of time, you know I struggle to answer the question about why people aren't working. We've all experienced it in 2021. Any store you went to, and still today, they say help wanted. So a lot of people, it wasn't more jobs that were created, although there was more jobs created, but it wasn't in the millions. And why did it happen across the United States? And I did a video on NILFs, not in the labor force, a couple of days ago. And I've still been thinking about this issue, like where is everybody and why is this nationwide where they cannot find help at these stores? And I did some digging around, and I did a prediction video in 2023 or on 2023 that was taken down. So I'm going to use some code words uh, to not get flagged by the overlords. But uh, one of the things I saw online is this. This is from ABC News. It says the rise in heart disease may be explained by extreme weather conditions. So if you have friends or colleagues that have had some kind of adverse effect, health effect in the last couple of years, specifically in 2021 and 2022, not in 2020, you might want to look into how climate change is causing that. But I want to go through the data. There's a guy named Edward Dowd. I'll link his website in the description below. But he is pretty impartial, um, from my understanding, and I'd like to be as impartial as possible. But we all know that we were promised something. If you recall, we were promised a benefit to something that, and that benefit doesn't exist. And we are also promised that that we had a benefit and that it was safe. Okay, so we now know that the benefit was not true, lie or not a lie. But we might want to consider maybe it's not that safe either. Maybe not. But this data will um, make you think, in my humble opinion. Just remember, all of this is because of global warming. Okay, just conveniently in 2021 and 2022. So Edward Dowd does a good job of laying out the data of disability. So to tie this in, where did everyone go? And one might look to the disability claims in the United States and see if those are going up. Are those people living with their parents? Are they not working? What is happening? Why isn't anybody? Why is there a sudden shortage of work? And keep this in mind: the Fed is looking at labor force participation rates. Okay, so uh, potentially total number of jobs available are going down, but the labor force participation rate had already gone down. So really what the Fed should care about, and they would say they do, is number of jobs and how full they are. But because labor force participation rate went way down, then even though if jobs are going down, there's still less people looking for those jobs. But why are there less people looking for those jobs? That's the $1 million question. And the answer is I don't know. But this data is rather fascinating. And I don't think anybody can say definitively this is why. But there has been a rapid uptick in disability claims. All right, so he lays out, and again, I'll link this in the description. He lays out how he comes to, he doesn't really come to a conclusion. He just is laying out data. And this is all from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So this isn't something he gathered on his own. Well, here's what I want to point out to you. And again, I'll link this in the description. The change in disabilities. Okay, so in the population of 16 to 64, change in disabilities was over almost 1.5 million. And in the civilian labor force of those 16 to 64, of that almost 1.5 million, 1,366,000 are on disability. So subtract this number from this number, and you get not in the labor force. So these are people that were not in the labor force who are seeking disability. You see a drastic difference between this number and this number. Obviously, the civilian labor force versus the people that were not in the labor force, these people were subjected to climate change. So, that's a massive disparity, absolutely massive, between people who were not in the labor force and those who were in the labor force. But here's the rate of change. So you might ask, well, Eric, how many people are normally on disability? Within this time, 2021 and 2022, we have seen a 24.5% increase of disability claims of those in the labor force. And this trend is going the wrong direction. It's increasing. So when you ask yourself, where is everybody? Why isn't anybody working? Why are there help wanted signs everywhere? Disability rates are going through the roof, to the tune of almost 1.5 million of the working population. Okay, reading from his findings here. For the general population age 16 to 64, from February of 2021 to November of 2022, the absolute number of increase in disabled individuals amounted to 1.46 million, of which 1.36 million were in the civilian labor force and only 94,000 were not in the labor force. The disabilities in the employed population rose by 1.677 million, which is a conundrum, as it is above the rise in the whole population and civilian labor force. The explanation is that the unemployment rate dropped significantly during this time. Remember what I said about the Fed, this time period, and therefore there's a drop in the absolute number of employed individuals with disability. The record low unemployment rate and tight labor market led to employment of the higher number of disabled individuals within the labor force. That added to the rise in disability in the unemployed population. Further reading here. In relative terms, we can observe that an increase in the disability rate was 0.64 for the whole population. So almost 1%, well, half of 1%, which corresponded to an 8.8% increase. So he's seeing a significant rise in younger people in disability claims. For the civilian labor force, the rise in the disability was 0.82, a correspondence of a 24.6% rise for this period. So I'm not coming to any conclusions from this, but you have to ask what changed. What changed in 2021 and what changed in 2022, specifically for working people. All right, and this also lays out, so that previous chart was for ages, I believe, 16 to 64, and this one's for 65 plus, okay? So change in disability. Notice again, the labor force change versus those who are not in the labor force. Again, those in the labor force were subjected to climate change, which we know causes heart issues. Okay, so the rise in civilian labor force disability of those 65 and older you saw a rate of change of 34%, versus those who were not in the labor force, you saw a change of 3.88%. These are, listening to Edward Dowd talk, these are like anomalies that you never see. So there has to be this kind of rate of change is just something you do not see when it comes to disability rates. He also goes into excessive deaths and yada yada. But this might be the answer to the question I've been looking for. Why are there so many help wanted signs? Why is the labor force participation rate at all-time highs? Where did all the workers go? It didn't make any sense to me. So here's his conclusion. Although a range of factors may be at play, we'll show in part 3, which I'll link, The timing and sudden nature of the increase in disabilities suggest the rollout of climate change. Other factors, those related to the return to normal economic healthcare activities, would be more likely to cause a gradual change in disability beginning earlier in the post-lockdown recovery. So he kind of dispels some other reasons that this could happen other than climate change. Um, a lot of people say, hey, that could be a rise in suicide. That could be this, that could be that. So what about disability? And then he also says what people, when it comes to unexpected death or sudden deaths, was that just a suicide pact among millions of people? Doesn't make a lot of sense. And majority of the data in the increase, whether it comes to excess death or going on disability, is the working population. The working population. And we all know they were subjected to climate change. Okay, so my question for you guys. I know I'm being a little bit coy here because I don't want to be, the YouTube overlords. What do you think, and this goes back to my 2023 prediction video, if climate change is causing this, if this is caused, if the thing that was promised to help actually hurts and you were forced to get it, what do you think society's going to do? How do you think people would react? Because there's a lot of people who trust potentially too blindly. And when it comes to people's health, that's not something you can really hide. When it comes to dead bodies, you can't really hide that. You can't pull the wool over people's eyes. And I'm not saying definitively that I know the answer. I am saying if you look at this data, at the link I'll post in the description, if you look at the data, you'll go, that is an aberration. That's something that doesn't happen on its own. So there's some outside factor that could be, or that probably is causing that. And so what is it? And why isn't anybody looking into it? And what do you think? What's going to happen to the labor force? What's going to happen to the economy? Not that everything's about money, but economy and social cohesion, pretty inextricably linked. But if the labor force is decimated, and that's like a 10%, 10% of people can't work, you saw that trend, 24% more people going on unemployment. What will that do to supply chains? What will that do to economic stability? What will that do to trade? I don't know. This might be the canary in the coal mine that I've been looking for, the answer to, hey, where is everybody and why isn't anybody working? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. See y'all in the next one. Peace.